Deep within the heart of a forgotten forest, where sunlight struggled to pierce the dense canopy, lay the Whispering Grove, a place of ancient secrets and whispered horrors. The townsfolk of Havenwood spoke of it only in hushed tones, warning outsiders to steer clear after sundown. They said the trees held memories of long-forgotten tragedies, and those who ventured too close risked losing themselves forever. Sarah Reynolds, a young journalist with an appetite for the macabre, had heard the tales of the Whispering Grove during her travels. Intrigued by the mystery shrouding the forest, she saw an opportunity for a breakthrough story that could propel her career to new heights. Armed with a sturdy backpack containing her recording equipment, a flashlight, and a determination bordering on obsession, Sarah arrived in Havenwood on a stormy October evening. The town greeted her with wary eyes and whispered warnings as she checked into the quaint inn at the edge of the forest. The innkeeper, an elderly woman named Mrs. Hawthorne, eyed Sarah with a mix of concern and curiosity. "Mind yourself out there, dear," Mrs. Hawthorne cautioned, her voice quivering slightly. "The Whispering Grove ain't no place for the faint-hearted, especially not after dark." Sarah smiled, brushing off the warnings as superstition. "Thank you, Mrs. Hawthorne. I'll be careful," she replied, her mind already racing with plans to venture into the grove that very night. As dusk settled over Havenwood, Sarah prepared her equipment with meticulous care. She wore a thick jacket against the autumn chill, checked her flashlight's batteries twice over, and ensured her voice recorder was set to capture every sound, no matter how faint. With a sense of anticipation and nervous excitement, she set off towards the Whispering Grove, her steps echoing softly on the damp forest floor. The transition from the outskirts of Havenwood to the heart of the grove was subtle yet unmistakable. The air grew thicker, heavy with the scent of damp earth and moss. Shadows danced eerily between ancient trees, their branches entwined like skeletal fingers reaching towards the sky. The rustling of leaves took on a haunting rhythm, as if the forest itself was whispering secrets Sarah strained to hear. She followed a narrow path that wound deeper into the grove, guided by the pale beam of her flashlight. Each step brought a heightened sense of unease, a primal instinct warning her of unseen dangers lurking just beyond the veil of darkness. But Sarah pressed on, driven by a relentless curiosity and the promise of a story that could make her career. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig underfoot or the distant hoot of an owl. The forest seemed to stretch endlessly around her, its depths concealing mysteries Sarah could only begin to fathom. She paused at a clearing bathed in moonlight, a natural amphitheater surrounded by towering oaks and twisted willows. It was here that Sarah first sensed something out of place, a faint, haunting melody drifting through the stillness. It was a child's voice, soft and plaintive, echoing from somewhere deep within the grove. Goosebumps prickled Sarah's skin as she strained to locate the source, her heart quickening with a mix of fear and fascination. The melody grew clearer with each step she took, guiding her towards an ancient oak tree standing alone at the clearing's edge. Its gnarled roots clutched the earth like ancient talons, its trunk scarred by centuries of wind and weather. At the base of the oak, partially obscured by tangled undergrowth, Sarah discovered an object that sent a chill down her spine, a weathered journal, its leather cover cracked and faded with age. With trembling hands, Sarah knelt beside the oak and lifted the journal from its resting place. The pages were brittle and yellowed, filled with faded ink that spoke of a history long forgotten. As she turned each page with cautious reverence, the forest seemed to hold its breath, a palpable tension building in the air around her. The journal belonged to a man named Samuel Hawthorne, a forester who had lived in Havenwood over a century ago. His entries chronicled the gradual descent of the town into darkness, the whispers of malevolent spirits haunting the grove, and the disappearance of his own daughter, Emily, on a stormy night much like this one. Sarah's fingers trembled as she turned the fragile pages of Samuel Hawthorne's journal. The tale unfolded with a haunting clarity, each entry deepening the mystery of the Whispering Grove. The whispers grow louder each night, their voices weaving through the trees like tendrils of darkness. Emily, my dear Emily, she hears them too. She wanders into the grove, lured by a melody only she can hear. I fear for her safety, for the darkness that lurks within these woods knows no mercy. That I have tried to warn the townsfolk, to plead with them to stay away from the grove after sundown. But they mock me, dismissing my words as the ramblings of a frightened old man. If only they could hear the whispers, feel the cold touch of unseen hands brushing against their skin. Emily ventured into the grove again tonight. I followed her as far as I dared, my heart pounding with dread. She disappeared into the shadows, her laughter mingling with the mournful cries of lost souls. I called out to her, but my voice was lost in the echoing silence. Tomorrow, I will gather my courage and venture deeper into the whispering grove. I must find Emily before it's too late. I pray that the darkness hasn't claimed her soul as it has so many others. Sarah shivered, the weight of Samuel's words settling uneasily in her mind. The realization that she stood in the same grove where Emily had vanished over a century ago sent a chill down her spine. She glanced around nervously, half expecting to see a fleeting figure darting between the trees. A sudden gust of wind rustled the leaves overhead, causing the shadows to dance in a macabre ballet around her. The forest seemed alive with a malevolent energy, a primal force that stirred beneath the surface of reality. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she sensed eyes watching her from the darkness, unseen but undeniably present. Determined to uncover the truth, Sarah continued to read. Her flashlight casting an unsteady beam across the journal's pages. Continuation of Samuel Hawthorne's journal, October 17, 1887. I ventured into the grove at dawn, the first rays of sunlight piercing the gloom like shards of hope. The whispering grove was eerily quiet, as if holding its breath in anticipation. I searched every shadow, every hollow tree trunk, calling Emily's name until my voice grew hoarse, but there was no sign of her, only the lingering echo of her laughter haunting the stillness. Despair clawed at my heart, for I feared that Emily was lost to me forever. As I retraced my steps towards Havenwood, I stumbled upon a clearing bathed in sunlight. At its center stood a solitary oak tree, its branches reaching towards the heavens like supplicant arms. There, beneath its ancient roots, I found a relic of unimaginable horror, a child's shoe, worn and weathered as if it had lain there for centuries. Emily's shoe. Tears stung my eyes as I knelt beside the oak, clutching the small shoe to my chest. The realization that my daughter had walked these haunted grounds pierced me to the core. She had succumbed to the lure of the whispers, drawn into the depths of the grove by forces beyond her understanding. My heart aches with guilt and sorrow, for I failed to protect her from the darkness that prowls within the whispering grove. But I swear on my life that I will uncover the truth, expose the malevolent spirits that plague our town, and ensure that Emily's spirit finds peace at last. Sarah's hands trembled as she reached the final entry in Samuel Hawthorne's journal. The weight of his grief and determination resonated within her, a testament to the enduring power of the Whispering Grove's curse. She glanced around the clearing, her gaze lingering on the gnarled oak tree that stood sentinel over the ancient tragedy. A sudden movement caught her attention, a flicker of movement among the shadows. Fleeting yet unmistakable. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she trained her flashlight on the spot where the figure had vanished. The forest held its breath, the air thick with an oppressive silence that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Heart pounding, Sarah clutched the journal to her chest and rose to her feet. The forest seemed to close in around her, its branches twisting and contorting like skeletal fingers reaching for an unseen prey. She stumbled backward, her mind racing with a jumble of fear and fascination. Then, from the depths of the Whispering Grove, came a sound that chilled her to the bone, a haunting melody, soft and plaintive, echoing through the trees. It was a child's voice, lost and sorrowful, calling out to her from the darkness. Unable to resist the pull of the haunting melody, Sarah took a tentative step forward, her pulse racing with a mixture of dread and curiosity. The whispers grew louder, their voices intertwining in a cacophony of forgotten secrets and suppressed horrors. She felt a cold breath against her neck, a touch that sent shivers down her spine. A sudden gust of wind swept through the grove, swirling the leaves into a frenzied dance around her. Shadows stretched and elongated, their forms twisting into grotesque shapes that seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. Sarah's mind reeled as she realized the true nature of the Whispering Grove. It fed on the fears and desires of those who dared to trespass, ensnaring their souls in an endless cycle of torment. With a surge of determination, Sarah turned and ran, her footsteps echoing loudly in the oppressive silence. Branches clawed at her clothes, roots snaked across her path, and the haunting melody pursued her like a relentless specter. She fought against the suffocating grip of the forest. Her breath coming in ragged gasps as she burst through the edge of the grove. Sarah stumbled into the clearing where she had first discovered Samuel Hawthorne's journal. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the ancient oak tree that loomed before her. She collapsed against its rough bark, her chest heaving with exertion and terror. The Whispering Grove lay behind her, its secrets buried within the shadows that danced at the forest's edge. Sarah knew she had narrowly escaped the grasp of its malevolent power, but she also knew that others might not be so fortunate. The town of Havenwood harbored a darkness that defied explanation, a darkness that would continue to haunt her dreams long after she left its cursed borders. With trembling hands, Sarah reached into her backpack and retrieved her recording equipment. She pressed the stop button on the voice recorder, its tiny screen displaying the duration of her harrowing journey into the heart of the Whispering Grove. The evidence she had gathered would serve as a testament to the horrors that lurked within the ancient forest, a warning to those who dared to listen to the whispers. As she prepared to leave Havenwood behind, Sarah cast one last glance over her shoulder at the Whispering Grove. The wind sighed through the trees, carrying with it the faint echo of a haunting melody, a melody that would haunt her for the rest of her days. And so, the legend of the Whispering Grove lived on, whispered among the townsfolk of Havenwood as a cautionary tale of darkness and despair. Sarah Reynolds returned to the world outside, forever changed by her encounter with the malevolent spirits that prowled within the haunted forest.